The most common complaint that I hear about certifications in general and the ISTQB is that they are a waste of time. And today I'm telling you, as a hiring manager, that is not the case at all. And let's dive into those details, and I will provide my opinion as to why I don't believe they are a waste of time. And you've heard it, right? ISTQB is a waste of time. It doesn't make sense. I would rather people have experience. Those are the most common themes that I hear out in the industry today. Now, it is important to make sure that you are doing the right things in terms of getting the right certifications. And so there is some level of justification, but in general, I do not believe that's the case. Now, the critics are going to say a certification doesn't make you good. They're also going to say you have the ability to memorize and forget it. And the other complaint is that experience matters more. And there is some credence to some of these types of comments in general, but it's really how you take this information and how you use it and how you leverage it, right? The combination of a certification and the experience is really going to set you apart, right? The other thing that the ISTQB has, it has a common structure and a framework as it relates to terminology. If you've taken the ISTQB, you're using similar terms. People within the testing organization can relate to those, and there are some common themes, practices, and principles that can be leveraged. Now, here's really how the hiring works, and me as a hiring manager, I have that unique perspective, right? So the certification helps you understand terms, it helps you understand vocabulary, it helps you understand principles. It also helps you to basically get in the door. So if I see a resume that has a certification, that's automatically going to set you apart from those who don't, right? And it at least gets you the opportunity, it gets you one step closer to hiring as it relates to getting your next job. Now, it gets you past the gatekeepers, right? So we go a little bit more in detail, right? If you have a certification on your resume and you say that you're ISTQB and CTL certified, it's going to get you a match. It's going to get you closer to the step, right? And even, for example, if HR, they don't really understand testing in general, but if they see you have a certification and that is a requirement for the job description, it's going to get you that much closer, right? And in addition to that, you'll see ISTQB mentioned in the job description, so you want to make sure that those certifications are listed and match so that you get closer to the interviewing process and really essentially the hiring manager. Now, once you're certified, you basically will stop arguing about basic principles as it relates to vocabulary and common processes and things like that, right? So it really helps from a ramp-up time to eliminate those onboarding things that have to happen, miscommunication, etc. You have a shared same language, right? If we say a test case, we know what that means. If you say, I'm going to practice risk-based testing principles and methodologies, we all know what that is. If you talk about severity, you know what those things are, and you really don't have to translate any of that. In addition to that, there's some proven fundamentals that really help you to understand ISTQB principles, right? So this could be test design, risk-based testing principles. All these things are fundamentally sound. They fundamentally make sense. And these are best practices as it relates to QA, software testing in general. And we've already mentioned the less ramp up time, right? And this is not only going to save you time as an employee or a contractor, it's going to save the company time in onboarding you. And if there's a decision that I have to make as a hiring manager between somebody who has a certification and another person who doesn't, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to take that person who has the certification if everything else is equal from that perspective. Now, for those that say that ISTQB certifications are a waste of time, here's a number that basically proves that it's not, right? Over 1 million people are ISTQB certified, and that is a significant number. And it's not just in a specific area, it's not in a specific domain, it's across 130 countries, and that list grows every day. It's the best recognized QA credential on the planet, and it doesn't get there by not making sense. It doesn't get there by people not taking the certification. So understand, when somebody tells you that it's a waste of time, you can point them to this number, and that will add credibility from that perspective. Now, this also is a vendor-neutral certification, right? So there's no company that's tied to it. There's no tool that would be tied to it. No vendor, right? It's neutral. So it's a neutral board. The tests are derived from a syllabus. So there's no, and it's also a nonprofit organization. So there's nothing to gain from the ISTQB board to be certified from that perspective. So in a lot of cases, you may have specific tooling. In other cases, you may have vendors that have certain certifications. That is not the case with the ISTQB. Now, it also helps in certain regulated industries to have these certifications. And especially if you're a consultant, then it is really going to help as well. So regulated industries such as finance, healthcare, automotive, defense, all those mandate and require some level of testing certifications. In addition, if you expand globally, in countries like India, Germany, the Gulf, and Brazil, the certifications give you some serious weight in some of those countries. So keep in mind, if you're in those countries, it's more important that you get the certification in general. And then enterprise and government sectors, the government's contracts, for example, I've seen where these ISTQB certifications are required from the government. So you want to make sure that you have those certifications if you're looking for these specific types of jobs. Now, the cost, and this is a US-based cost, so cost is going to be different in India, Germany, and other locations from that perspective. But if you're taking the ISTQB cost, it's around $200. It's a one-time cost. There's no renewal, no subscription required. So from my perspective, a $200 cost is a one-time fee. Sometimes vendors or companies may pay for that, but I've taken multiple ISTQB certifications and I've always just paid the cost, right? It's a few $100s. You study it for a few weeks. You've got it done. And it's a lot cheaper than some of these other certifications that are out on the market from that perspective. And essentially, if you get a certification and you go into an interview, you land a job, that $200 is just going to pay back in one interview, and it's going to pay itself over and over again. So just keep that in mind. Don't let cost be a deterrent for you not to go out and get the certification. In addition, I've mentioned this, there are some new certifications out there that have landed in 2026, and two of these are a CTAI testing AI system certification. And so this one is teaching you how to test on machine learning systems. You're going to look at data quality, bias from the AI, failure modes, and this is more encompassing for AI. And so these certifications are essentially the latest on the market, and I strongly encourage you to get both of these. The other certification related to AI is a Gen AI certification. So this certification teaches you how to use generative AI inside your testing process. And most of us have used generative AI in some form or capacity, whether it's Claude, OpenAI, Copilot, and other models as well. So we're all familiar with putting in a prompt and getting a result out. And so these two certifications will really help you set you apart because it's brand new and not many people have these certifications from that perspective. So it's really going to put you ahead of the pack if you go ahead and get these certifications done. Now, just make sure that you understand why you're getting a certification and some of the principles involved in the certification, right? So here are some of the real talk and some of the discussions that happen around these certifications. And it's important that you understand these things and that you understand the counter argument from that perspective. So here are people that you may want to think about. These are roles that are within the market today. So for example, senior engineers with a portfolio. So if you have years and years of testing, you've been able to do not only multiple projects, identified real bugs, and your track record kind of speaks for itself, then kind of keep that in mind. In other companies, such as product role companies, a lot of product teams have coding skills, strong GitHub over certifications, for example, right? So kind of keep that in mind as well. And then there's other people, for example, that do nothing but get certifications, right? So they have a ton of certifications, but they don't have a lot of practical knowledge. This is a red flag from my perspective. For example, if I'm looking at a resume, I see a bunch of certifications, but I don't see a whole lot of practical experience on the resume, then that's going to be a red flag for me from that perspective. So the ISTQB is meant to be a multiplier on top of the experience and not a replacement for it. So keep that in mind from that perspective, and it's a very valid point from what I can see. So it's not only about the badge, it's also about the badge plus the proof, right? So when I look at a resume and somebody has a certification, then I give that higher weight than somebody who does not. So you want to make sure that you are not only taking and passing these exams, but you also want to make sure you take and apply those principles, right? So take what you've learned in the certification. You may even have to look back on it from time to brush up on it. Make sure you're applying these techniques with real-world projects. Use the common vocabulary, and let those two things open doors for new opportunities and new experiences. So to reiterate, ISTQB is not a waste of time. However, if you choose to skip it and you choose not to prioritize getting certifications, it really can be. And it's especially true for those who are in their early career years. If you're changing careers from one area to another, for example, if you're moving from a BA role into a QA role or want to move, then an ISTQB certification would make a lot of sense. In addition, if that is a requirement on the posted job that you have that certification, then you're going to need to get it to get past the ATS tracking. You're going to need to get past it from an HR perspective, and you're going to need to get past it from the hiring manager. So it's a very low-cost option to really get you in the door and help you land that next dream job that you're looking for. The certification itself was not meant to replace any skills. It's meant to have someone see it because you've got the certification. So get the certification, build the proof, and let those two work hand in hand from that perspective. I hope that you've enjoyed this video today. I'm going to be producing more videos related to certifications, but I do encourage you to continue to look at the QA revolution. I've got a lot of videos out there about software testing. I'm really focusing, in addition to that, on AI and testing and how Claude and other AI tools work and how it's really reshaping the QA job industry. I also have dedicated videos to QA careers, interview tips and tricks, getting hired, and I'm approaching it from the hiring side because I'm a hiring manager. And in addition to that, I also have tool breakdown videos that really, I don't believe in a lot of hype around these things. I am a QA person by trade, so I'm skeptic from that perspective. So I also come in and give some tool breakdown, tool analysis that I hope will be helpful. So if you've liked this video, please subscribe to this video and to my channel, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next video.